Fairness. The most important thing in competitive video games is the concept of balance. The loss of what's being deemed as fair to you can make you genuinely frustrated due to how the human psyche works. The lack of what you see as fair and or balance causes multiple emotionally unpleasant responses to the brain. A sense of fairness releases dopamine, a lack releases norepinephrine. Like for instance, a good player in a game would make you mad, but that's just your fault. You need to figure out how to play around them instead of saying that they're using silent aimbot with ESP and telling their cheats off every time they aren't shooting. But you know what would make you more upset? If a random free-to-play soldier could just... I'm gonna random crit myself in real life. TF2 in general is one of the best shooter games of all time, basically reshaping the modern genre and that. Also known as popularizing children being able to gamble. You call it innovative, I call it Mission Zero. In conversations of the best balanced shooters out there, TF2 is bound to come up at least once. The game is one of the most well-balanced FPS games to date, but some people don't agree with that statement. People like my imaginary friend, Jack. He likes to eat toenails. Yeah, so obviously it's pretty hard to find someone who doesn't agree with the idea of TF2 being one of the best out there. So instead of talking about the game balance in general, I'm going to be talking on select points to speak on specific flaws and pluses. I'm also not good enough at game design to understand its fundamentals, so it's easier to me. Suckers think I know what I'm talking about. Some of the most polar opposite things when it comes to balance is the maps. Are the maps the best in the game, the worst in the game, or completely forgotten about? There's a reason everyone talks about Badwater and not Embargo. Speaking of which, some of the best maps in the game are basically the only maps you ever see played. You'll almost never see B-roll in a video of CP Junction. No one plays CP Junction. TF2 is what is known as a movement shooter, where you have lots of control over how your character moves and their capabilities. For instance, rocket jumping. The ability to rocket jump is one of Soldier's most important abilities, because Soldier as a class is very slow. In fact, he's just above heavy at 80%. But rocket jumping can actually outspeed a scout if you learn it with things like speed jets and pogos. Yeah, you can't do that on Junction. Junction is infamous for the map's incredibly tight quarters, limiting almost any and all movement. Wanna play Soldier? Have fun walking. Wanna play Scout? You sure as hell won't be able to use movement to outsmart your opponent. Wanna play Spy? You could. Or you could try electroshocking yourself. I guess the smallest fix would be to try and make the last point more difficult to defend, as Junction is known as the Engineer's Gathering due to the hallways being sentries like a hard counter, as no spies can get through the zap and basically no high grade can be had over the sentry for explosive classes. How do you play CP Junction? Don't play it. That's how. Another map known for its tight quarters is Dustbowl, specifically known for its projectile spam tight corridors and very limiting ceilings.
When the light is running low and the shadows start to grow and the places that you know seem like fantasy.
Look at this! This is real collision on Dustbowl. If you don't know that much about the hammer editor, you might not know how poorly these clips are placed. It's supposed to look like this. I think you can see the problem. Another issue with Dustbowl is how biased it is towards defense. See this? This is a sentry spot. But not any ordinary sentry spot. Oh, no. You see, this spot is high ground above blue, making spam difficult. A small window that makes damage, minimal cover for the engineer due to the pillbox wall, so buying up his space for red to catch the Wranglers who try to sap an attack sentry, and just to add a little fuck you, a large ammo pack with quicker rebuilding. Gee, if we're throwing all that in for free, why not throw in some therapy too? Another one of the most well-known plus of Dustbowl is that if you think capture the flag runs are long, try Dustbowl. The timer can genuinely go up to 25 minutes. You may think that's unnecessary, and it is, but if you've ever played Dustbowl, you know that you can run that timer all the way down and still lose. Dustbowl has been like that since the beta versions, and Valve didn't think once that, 25 minutes might have been a little bit too long. The reason that these maps are strongly disliked by some fans at Festival is because of their constant spamming throughout the entire map and stages of Dustbowl, as well as almost no places for all classes to shine. Spy and Scout suffer greatly from the maps due to the small movement space. Scout can't run and jump around, and Spy can't do anything at all. Also, do you hate Sniper? Tired of not respecting the sight line and complaining you die when you walk into it? Well, do I have good news for you. These maps have really bad Sniper sight lines. Hey, speaking of Sniper is a very polarizing subject when it comes to balance. Either you think he's fine as he already is, should be enough in hell, or he needs more bleed effect. I'm gonna give you bleed effect in real life. Personally, I don't see Sniper as overpowered as people paint the class out to be. Sniper is almost essential to teach players that you can't just run in a straight line or right up a space or you'll get headshot, which people do, and then complain when they get headshot. Let's stop doing it. But I also have to agree, Sniper does need some rebalancing. First things first, there will be bullet virus tracers, yeah, but also the ability to drop a leg class in now makes it a little bit completely unfair to play against a sniper with a little bit of competence. The topic on how to nerf Sniper is a very difficult question with ideas on how to balance them ranging from minor differences to almost rewriting the headshot system entirely. The most common of these ideas being to just simply decrease the headshot's base damage. If you didn't know, the way the headshot mechanic works is that when you scope in, you do 150 damage and after 0.2 seconds of damage that the headshot does will over the course of 3.3 seconds ramp up to 450. The reason that this is so controversial is because for those 0.2 seconds you still do that 150 headshot damage, allowing you to insta-kill scouts, non-gunslinger engineers, medics, spies, other snipers, my will to live. The reason the suggestion of decreasing the base damage is so popular is because 1, it's really easy to think of that, and 2, simply changing the base damage of headshots from 150 to, I don't know, maybe 100 or 115 would require you to wait 0.2 seconds to drop a light glass unless you double headshot them. Personally, I think that if this were to be implemented, the time required should be increased, maybe to 0.5 seconds instead, because it would still only take 2 seconds to kill. Oh, it's already dead. Another suggestion made to nerf Sniper is by giving him a reverse damage fall-off mechanic, making it so that the closer you are, the less damage a headshot does, causing you to need to be far away to do any real damage as Sniper, theoretically forcing the class to be its intended long range. That's fucking stupid. Genius idea. Gives Sniper an inconsistent damage output, theoretically allowing enemies to live if they're a little too close, making you easier to be rushed, causing the class to become extremely unfun to play because your only consistent close range damage outputs become either an SMG, melee, or jar of piss. Hey, speaking of, Jiraiya is very well known for being, completely broken. If you manage to survive for 20 whole seconds, I know, scary. You'll be rewarded with a projectile with a 200 hammer unit radius splash that covers all enemies caught in it with mini crit piss that adds an additional 35% to all weapon damage intake and ignores all fall off. Damn, if throwing piss works that well for him, I'll start doing it in real life. Jiraiya doesn't have distance fall off! Oh, sorry, got a little alarm there. What I meant was, huh? I fully thought Jiraiya had fall off based on range, but nope! The most obvious thing in the world, fall off across 600 hammer units ranging piss time from 5 to 10 seconds, decreasing from distance thrown. But hey, that's on me. I'm already making a video about balance issues. I think I'm already expecting too much from Valve. Another idea on changing Jiraiya is to do a cleaner's carbine style build-up where damage done would charge up Jiraiya. Except that wouldn't really work because you don't have a secondary, so it would probably be headshots or kills instead. And extinguishing teammates would count to the Jiraiya meter as a kill. There's not a lot to say here. Some actual mechanical ways to fix Jiraiya I've thought up is reducing its splash radius from 200 hammer units to 150 and adding a hidden stat limiting the Jiraiya to 3 to 5 people to make the effects of Jiraiya less detrimental. Another one of Sniper's unlocks that's hated by pyramids across the globe is of course the Darwin's Danger Shield. The way that the Darwin's Danger Shield works is that it gives you an additional 25 max health, increases bullet resistance by 15%, and explosion vulnerability by 20%. No. Wait, I'm reading this wrong. That was until it said fuck you and then removed all those stats and made it a 50% damage resistance to fire and no afterburn with no downsides to balance out the weapon. What the fuck are you all doing? I do think that the Darwins could use a complete rework, but that's not my job. It's to balance weapons with their current stats. Who the hell do you think I am? F***ing legs yeah, right? I guess if I had to rework the Darwins, I'd probably make it so the afterburn immunity is still there, but instead of being complete immunity, it's just afterburn like half. As well as the fire resistance either being decreased to 25% or just removed entirely. And I think to balance this out, it should actually bring back the 50% bullet vulnerability. Like the old Darwin's rule, it was to keep you protected from specific classes while making you weaker to most others. Used to be soldier, now it's pyro. Another one of the most controversial items in TF2 is the infamous Kunai, the weapon in which notoriously no YouTuber can actually balance properly. A throwing knife? They didn't even throw the kunai, it was too heavy to throw. A cooldown on the kunai, it's a knife! A fucking shotgun! New kunai rework idea, the knife doesn't stab anymore and you just shoot lasers from your eyes. The way that the kunai works is that your base health is grease of 70, which is a whole thing in its own right, as well as making it so that when you backstab someone, you steal their health up to a max overheal of 210. My idea for a kunai rework is simple. When you backstab someone, they actually don't get killed. They get 8 seconds of mini crit bleed. Just kidding. It's actually 10. You're all well aware of the half Satoshi, right? The Demonite sword that gives you half of your health back on kill? Well, I think that the half health stat should be applied to the kunai, but with a twist. Instead of giving you half of your base health, which would be a small 35 heal bonus, it gives you half of your enemy's base health. I think this is a good rework because not only does it make it so that when it falls in the hands of a trick-stabbing kunai spy, they won't live until the heat death of the universe because they could just backstab the sun for a full overheal. But also a little baby speeds while providing chance to the half health not being too much of a nerf. Now what's my other idea for a kunai nerf? Remove the 33% cloak drain with the Eurotunnel reward and put it on the kunai. Now, why do I want to add cloak drain onto the kunai? Well, First, we have to talk about the Diamondback. Yes, the infamous Diamondback. The way the Diamondback works is by giving you a guaranteed rate for a backstab or a building stab.
Hey man, thanks for playing Spy. Because you did, I'm gonna give you $5,000 for any button you press.
The way that crits work is pretty fundamental to this list, so I think it's a pretty good time to explain to you how critical hits work. Crit spark damage buff commonly caused by, wow, what a guest. The crit squeak, getting your sentry destroyed with at least one assist while their frontier justice is equipped, the phlogistonate with full, not saying that, being behind someone with a back burner, and the devil. To simplify down crit types heavily since I can't be bothered to explain the damageable mechanic because you've probably heard it 1,000 times, crits don't work the same through every weapon. In weapons that use single shot mechanics, the game simply goes, is this a crit? Nope. Is this a crit? Nope. Is this a crit? I fucking hope it's not. For sustained fire weapons like flamethrowers, you can't just run a simple check like that. Instead makes a similar check of when a crit is triggered, it runs for 2 seconds of crit fire. The way that crits affect damage is by raising the base damage of the weapon by 300%, or in simpler terms, multiplying the base damage by 3 times. So for a weapon like the shotgun, at medium range it would do about 18 to 180 depending on aim, and for a crit sticky it would do... So you can probably see what the Diamondback is rated now. Spy can already insta-kill anyone from behind them, most of the time. But with the Diamondback, he can now 2-shot 3 of the 9 classes if he has 1 whole crit. Yeah. Well, first things first, to balance it, we make it so that it shoots mini crits instead of normal crits. Duh. And like the 2013 rework, it only rewards crits on building stops again. But now I can tell you why I need to talk about the Diamondback. This might be my grouch moment of the video, but I think that the Diamondback should have a 33% cloak drain as well as the Kunai. The reason I think that these two should have the drain percentage applied to them is for multiple reasons. 1, fuck you, this is my video and there's nothing you can do about it. 2, the Diamondback's cloak drain would work as an opposite to the... Tangerine. And 3, the Kunai and Diamondback used together would accumulate into a 66% cloak drain, deterring people from the Diamondback, Kunai, and Deadbringer loadout due to the fact that the cloak duration of the Deadbringer would be reduced from 7 seconds to 4.5 seconds, give or take. Oh, I should probably talk about the Deadbringer too. The Deadbringer is one of the most annoying things in the game to fight against. You know Spy, the class that's designed to be incredibly weak as he's one of the few classes that have health decreasing items. And he also has 2 lives apparently. In concept, the Deadbringer is awesome. A snarky French guy faking his death in a Shakespearean fashion just to reappear behind you is such a cool idea! It's so on brand of Spy's character to do something like that. Pretending to die in such an overly dramatic way and just so... In practice, no. Turns out that when you give an incredibly weak class an item that gives you essentially 2 lives and allows the player to be significantly more aggressive than any other Spy's watches, it causes a few problems. Just like how this chlorine might kill me. Let's talk about why the Deadbringer is so powerful. From just a view of the regular test, you might think, oh, the plus 40% cloak duration is pretty cool, and the minus 50% cloak when activated balances out the plus 50% cloak regain rate, so what gives? When you decide to take a look at the hidden status button, that's when you realize, oh wait, this is just a crutch weapon. The 75% reduction of the damage that triggers your ringer just makes it so that Spies come fucking tumbling in until something hits them and they run a cross-country marathon into a fail stab. Because not only does it give you that damage reduction on the initial trigger, you get a 3-second speed boost, basically speed to 130, making you as fast as a scout, and on top of the speed boost, you don't get blinked when you bump into an enemy player, or get shot, or get lit on fucking fire for the same duration of the speed boost. Promoting newer Spies to adapt to an overly aggressive playstyle, causing them to be worse for the class in the long run due to the other invis watches being completely different in every way, shape, and form, aka... The only way you could balance the Deadbringer is by getting rid of all the on-hit buffs except for the damage reduction, because otherwise what is a weapon but just a way to play Spy without requiring the skill of using an actual invis watch? Oh, that's what it is. So this is the part of the script where I don't know how to transition topics anymore and my depression is making me lose all motivation to write in-depth reviews of one weapon at a time, so... Quickfire! Change the gas passive reset time so that instead of 1 minute it takes 20 to 30 seconds to make it so that damage done by powers makes the afterburn do 2 times the damage so that the weapon actually sees some viability and extra damage instead of doing jack shit and a little bit of fuck all. Make it so the primary fire, the short circuit does 20 damage and gives you back metal on successful hits so that's just a worse pistol and instead like a mini Widowmaker. And change the orb to projectile check every frame instead of every 0.1 seconds. Which I don't really know how you could do that, maybe just make it so the orb is treating as an entity like how players are with no collision so that when a projectile hits the orb the game acts as if it's hitting a player and instead of exploding on collision collision, the short circuit triggers are called to delete the projectile. Also, make it so that it can't get metal from dispensers of the car when active, because what part of this looks fun to you? Make it so the BFE's boost rate is reduced by 75% of damage taken instead of producing 4% for every damage point. Remove the crit invulnerability from the battalion's backup. Make it so the scorch shot doesn't build not saying that for the Logistinator. Make the Flawed charge up with 3 kills instead of 300 damage and do mini crits except for MVM, in which the weapon should stay in its current state. Oh yeah, make the cable take 15-6 to recharge instead of just, not. But also make it able to drop light classes again. It was so fun when it used to. Remove the vaccinator from the game and be better without it. Alright, so now that I've talked long enough for you to have forgotten about that mental health comment, let's talk about weapons more in depth again. Mainly because I just ran out of weapons to list off and I talked about the short circuit too much. I wasn't planning on writing that much about it, but you know silly old me. No, you don't. I think now would be a good time to bring up the Wrangler now that we're too long into the video. What the Wrangler does is by simply pressing 2 on your keyboard, you get to win. Yes, with the Wrangler's infamous shield mechanic, defending it from 66% of any damage taken, essentially buffing the health of the sentry from 216 to 648, makes it so that it's almost impossible to take on a sentry by yourself while an engineer is tanking it. Now, how did they balance this out? Did you guess they didn't? The only downside they gave to the Wrangler was to make it so all repairing makes the sentry recover 30% as much health and ammo. So instead of doing 102 repair damage per hit, you do 67 or 53 with the Jag. This does nothing. I think the way that I nerfed the Wrangler is by removing the shield, which while is a pretty good nerf, I personally think that would just make the weapon a lot worse to the point where it'd be better to equip the stock pistol. First off, I'd make it so that as the Wrangler is held out, the shield would lower the damage absorbed from 66% to 25% over the course of 5 to 10 seconds. Maybe making it rely on ammo cans so the more you shoot, the weaker it gets. Second, I think the shield should just block repairing entirely, making the weapon more of a, do I want to take my sentry and risk it going down, or do I want to fight manually, and less of a, fuck you, Power Glass. Well, what's next on the list? I already did random crits. But in all seriousness, TF2 will always be one of my favorite games of all time. The silliness of the game, the way it nearly changed FPS landscapes from release, the music, everything about the game is so good. For every poorly balanced weapon, there's always going to be a well-balanced one to counter it. It's easy to be negative all the time, just type anything in a TF2 chat lobby. But TF2 is, and always will be, one of the best balanced FPS games in history. So, if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Every weapon in TF2 should have 10 seconds of bleed applied to them.